How do you recognize your calling when you don't feel qualified? And how do you own it when everything inside you says you're not good enough? This episode is for anyone who's ever thought, who am I to do this? I don't have the right credentials. Other people are more qualified than me. I'm not smart enough, educated enough, experienced enough. And yet you keep showing up. You keep helping people and you keep doing the work. That tension between doing the work and doubting your right to do it, that's what we're talking about today. So settle in. This might get vulnerable. It might hit close to home, but I promise you there's hope and clarity on the other side. Let's talk about being called, not qualified. Hey everyone, welcome back to Get Up and Grow. I'm Sinta Ebersohn, and I'm so glad that you are here today. If you followed along yesterday on social media, you know that I shared something deeply personal, that November 2023 moment that changed everything for me. The moment I realized I'd been living my calling all along, but doubting it every single step of my way. And today I want to go deeper, not just into my story, but also into something that I know affects many of you who are listening and watching me right now. But before I dive into my story, I want to talk about something that affects almost everyone who's ever felt called to help others, create something meaningful, or step into leadership. Imposter syndrome. You know what I'm talking about? That little voice that says, who are you to do this? You're going to be found out as a fraud. Everyone else knows more than you. You don't belong here. Here's what's fascinating. Imposter syndrome doesn't affect people who aren't actually doing anything meaningful. It affects people who are stepping up, who are making a difference, who are living their purpose. In other words, if you feel like an imposter, it's often because you're actually doing something real, something that matters, something that scares you. Research shows this. A study published in the International Journal of Behavioral Science found that approximately 70% of people experience imposter syndrome at some point in their lives. 70%. And it's particularly common among high achievers, people in helping professions, those who've overcome trauma, women and people from marginalized groups, and first-generation professionals. Why? Because we are taught to measure our worth by external validation, degrees, titles, credentials, awards. And when our qualifications comes from somewhere else, from lived experience or from transformation, from wisdom gained through suffering, we are told that it doesn't count. But here's what I have learned. The most powerful teachers are not the ones with the most credentials. They're the ones who've walked the path, and they are the ones who've lived through whatever it is that they are teaching about. They are the ones who can say, I've been where you are. I know the way through. Take my hand. Think about who you will trust most. The therapist who's read about trauma, or the one who's healed from it? Or the business coach who studied entrepreneurship, or the one who's built successful businesses? Or the parenting expert with a degree, or the mother who's raised resilient children through adversities? Both have value, but here's something about lived experience that creates a lifetime of authority, a different kind of authority, a deeper kind of knowing. And if you have that lived experience, if you've transformed your own pain, if you've walked through the fire and come out the other side, you are qualified. Not despite what you've been through, because of it. Now, let me tell you how I learned this and why it took me 55 years to believe it. I spent my entire life believing I wasn't good enough. And I know now, after doing the deep work using my own Get Up and Grow process, that this was a trauma response. When you experience child abuse, particularly the kind where your voice is silenced, where your needs don't matter, where you're told you're less than, that creates a core belief: I am not enough. And that belief shapes everything. For me, it showed up as relentless studying, endless learning, constant proving. I have 9 diplomas. I have 42 internationally accredited certifications in fields ranging from trauma debriefing to holistic counseling, from resilience practice to strategic life coaching, from complementary therapy to parenting education. You name it. I studied history. I studied anthropology, sociology, psychology, philosophy, human behavior, childhood development, the science of parenting. I became an expert, not just through study, but through lived experience of all 10 adverse childhood experiences, through surviving rape, abuse, parentification, divorce, betrayal, violence, loss, and so much more. Through getting sick. I have a heart block. I had thyroid cancer. I have celiac disease, and having to heal not just physically, but emotionally and mentally and spiritually. Through raising 2 sons as a single mother, while breaking generational trauma patterns. Through founding Fair Divorce in 2015, an award-winning platform that's helped thousands of families navigate separation and divorce. And also through creating Get Up and Grow, a community teaching people how to consciously cultivate resilience and transform trauma into growth. I was doing the work. I had been doing the work, actually. Since I was 15 years old and parentified, thrust into the role of caring for my siblings when my parents divorced, I've been helping people. Volunteer work throughout my adult life. I've always showed up for family and friends in crisis, and I've built platforms to help others heal. But the whole time, a little voice inside me whispered, "You're not really qualified for this. You don't have a degree. Who are you to help anyone?" And people around me reinforced that voice. Family members told me my qualifications meant nothing without a formal university degree. Critics questioned my authority. Even I questioned it. So I kept studying. I kept earning certifications and accreditations. I kept trying to prove that I was good enough, that I was qualified enough. But it was never enough. Because the problem wasn't my qualifications. The problem was the belief that I needed to be qualified in order to be called. Let me say that again. I thought I needed to be qualified in order to be called. But that's backwards. I was attending an online business event. It was about building your brand, growing your business, intertwined with personal development. I was there because I wanted to develop, get up and grow. I wanted to reach more people, but underneath that desire, there was still doubt. Am I qualified to do this at scale? To call myself an expert? To lead people? And then one of the speakers said something, just one sentence. God does not call the qualified. He qualifies the called. And everything stopped. I felt it in my entire body. It wasn't just an intellectual understanding, it was a physical experience. My chest released tension that I'd been carrying for decades. Just let it go. I wrote the words down in my notes and I highlighted them and I stared at them because in that moment, I understood something profound. I had been living my calling all along. Every trauma I survived, it qualified me to help other trauma survivors. Every adversity I faced, it prepared me to guide other people through their own adversities. Every person I helped, while doubting myself, that was the calling. Not something I needed to become worthy of, something I was already living. I didn't need to become qualified and then start my calling. I was being qualified by living my calling. The parentification at 15, that taught me how to hold space for other people. The volunteer work, that taught me how to show up without expectation of recognition. The abuse I survived, that taught me empathy and resilience. And the illnesses I healed from, that taught me the mind-body connection. The Fair Divorce platform, that taught me how to build systems to help people. All of it, every single piece, qualification. Not despite my pain, but because of my pain. Not despite my lack of a formal degree, but because of my lived experience and intentional study. Not despite my doubts, but because I showed up anyway. I sat with that realization. I let it wash over me, and I cried. Not sad tears, relief, gratitude, a profound sense of coming home to myself. For years I've been asking, who am I meant to be? What am I supposed to do with my life? And the answer was, you're already doing it. You just haven't claimed it. So the next day, something shifted profoundly. I stopped thinking I'm not qualified enough for this. I started knowing I am called to do this. I have been my entire life. And everything I've lived has qualified me. That's when Get Up and Grow truly began. Not as something I was building while doubting myself, but as something I was owning fully. So let me ask you, what if you've been living your calling all along, but you just haven't recognized it yet? What if the very things you think disqualify you are actually what qualify you? Here's how to recognize your calling. Look at what you keep doing, even when you doubt yourself. Your calling isn't always dramatic. It's often the quiet, consistent thing you keep showing up for. What do you keep doing even when no one's watching? Even when you're not getting paid? Even when you doubt you're good enough? That's a clue. Then look at what you've survived and what you've learned from it. Your pain is not random. Your adversity is not wasted. If you've walked through trauma and come out the other side with wisdom, that wisdom is meant to be shared. If you've overcome something, you're qualified to help someone else overcome it. Look at where people naturally come to you for help. What do friends ask you about? What do family members come to you for? What problems do people trust you to help them solve? That's not random either. Look at the intersection of your passion and other people's pain. Your calling often lives at the place where something you deeply care about meets a problem other people are facing that you have experience solving. For me, I deeply care about breaking generational trauma and cultivating resilience. Other people are facing trauma and adversity, and I have lived experience transforming both. That intersection, that is my calling. Notice the resistance. Now, here's something counterintuitive. The things you're most called to do are often the things that scare you the most. If you feel unqualified, if you doubt yourself, if there's resistance, that might mean you're close to something real, because easy things don't require growth, but callings do. So here's what I want you to do. Stop waiting to feel qualified. Stop waiting for someone to give you permission. Stop waiting for the perfect credentials, the right degree, the complete healing. Start owning what you've lived, what you've learned, and what you have to offer. Because the world doesn't need more people with perfect credentials. The world needs you with your messy, imperfect, hard-won wisdom. The world needs people who can say, I've been where you are. I know it's hard, and I know the way through. That's qualification enough. Here I am today, 57 years old, cancer-free, healing, thriving, leading a resilient blended family. And finally, owning my calling with confidence. Not because I earned one more credential, not because someone gave me permission, not because I became perfect, but because I realized I've been qualified all along. And so have you. If you're listening to this and you've been doubting yourself, questioning whether you're enough, wondering if you have the right to help others, listen to me. You are called. You are qualified. Your lived experience matters. Your wisdom counts. Your voice deserves to be heard. This week on social media, I'm sharing more pieces of my story, the adversities, the illnesses, the transformations. And on Friday, members of Get Up and Grow get the full deep dive newsletter where I share the parts that I can't share publicly. If you want to join us, if you want weekly tools, resources, and support for your own Get Up and Grow journey, it's $13 a month. Link is in the notes and the bio. And if you found value in this episode, please share it with someone who needs to hear this. And please leave a review because it helps others to find this message. Until next week. Own your calling. You are qualified. Get up and grow.